Hope you guys can hear the kids.
Game on. Jeff's kids are excited for this one. Hey, Jeff.
How's it going, Mike, buddy?
Not too bad.
Guys, tomorrow night the Sabres are in town. It's what I've been looking forward to. It's pretty much Christmas Day for me, you know. Today we have Chad DeDominicis. Did I get that?
Not bad.
From Expected Buffalo joining us to kind of preview the game a little bit for tomorrow. So go follow Expected Buffalo, find them on social medias. And yeah, we'll go from there. So Chad, once again, thanks for joining us. If you don't mind starting off talking a little bit about Expected Buffalo a little more and how long the site's been around and just the type of work you do on your website there and your podcast you have.
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy thinking about it. April will actually be 3 years. So we launched with Anthony. Writer of mine, Anthony Chandra, we launched Expected Buffalo during COVID. So in April 2021, it would have been. So, actually, I'm sorry, 2020. And, you know, Anthony and I are two guys. We've wrote about the Sabres for a long time, and kind of how we differentiated ourselves in coverage is we're more on the number side. So we're the analytics chart boys, if you will, for the Sabres. And it's kind of the focus on our site. So we cover the Sabres. We look at it from a data perspective. Not all the time, but that's kind of our main focus. And now we have Eddie, who we brought on board with us too. So there's mainly three of us on the site. Subscription-based site. We do not only the Sabres, we also do cover the Amherst of the AHL. And last year, we actually started covering lacrosse, too, so indoor lacrosse, the NLL. So we cover the Bandits, too, a little bit of a variation on us. Eddie is our lacrosse guy. So, yeah, that's the site, expectedbuffalo.com. And then we have our podcast, Anthony and I do, Expected Buffalo, the podcast. I guess every time I say it, is our podcast. I've been podcasting for I think almost 7 years now, 6-7 years. But that Anthony and I have been together. He took over from my old friend who did the podcast with me initially, but Anthony and I have been going together for like 2, maybe 3 years now. So yeah, a lot of hockey talk, a lot of Sabres talk. It's fun. You know, every time I think I'm maybe getting a little bit sick of it, and that's usually in the off season, August, when nothing is happening. Once the season starts again and games start playing, you know, you get right back in that mode, and you get excited for the season. You get, you know, pumped up, and a lot more excitement around Buffalo these times too. You know, it's not the dreads anymore. A little bit more excitement these times.
Yeah, no, I do got to say, I'm not just saying this because you know, you're on the show and everything, but I really love your site. I'm a subscriber, and you know, sometimes with the analytics side, it's something I didn't really buy into years ago at first. I'm not going to lie, but just the more and more it's been around, I'm definitely bought in. And after reading some of your articles, I'm like, you know what, Chad's right. Like, he's really onto something. And I love just the formulas and everything you have with your articles. So keep up the great work, and I love to see it. So
appreciate that, Jeff. Thank you.
Yep. Mike, buddy.
Yeah. So I was interested to find out, starting tomorrow for your Sabres, is their longest road trip of the season being 4 games.
Yeah.
Normally for Edmonton, happens every November when we used to play at Rexall, because we'd have a rodeo at the rink. So the Oilers would have a 6 or 7 game road trip every November. So seeing that 4 games was your longest road trip of the season, I had to look and see what ours is. And it's 4 games as well, only we do it 4 times this year.
Yeah, Buffalo has we have actually Jurassic World Live coming through in the next couple of days. So that's what's occupying the arena here for the next few days.
And you kind of get off lucky, because I see that you play us, you go to Calgary, play the Flames, and then I think you fly over to Vancouver, you play the Canucks.
Yep.
And then
Seattle, I believe.
And then you go down to Seattle. So it's as gentle of a Western swing as you probably are going to find.
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
I mean, for Buffalo, that's a extended road trip. For us, you know, that's our California swing that we do, you know, a few times a season.
Yeah, right.
Now, going back to the Sabres there, Chad, is there I like to look at it. I got a lot of Oiler friends that kind of, what makes this rebuild, like what makes this different this time around? You know, and me personally, I feel like the management group with Kevin Adams, I feel like that's the difference. You know, I love what they're doing, and I love the type of staff Adams has surrounded himself with. You know, could you elaborate a little bit on like the guys like Sam Ventura, the Jason Carmonos of the group? You know, just the way Adams has kind of built our front office staff. You know, because I feel like some fans out west, like the Oiler fans, might not hear a lot about the type of group they're building over there. And I feel like, you know, I'm not just drinking the Sabres juice. I'm like, you know, this is it. Like, they got a great formula and plan. They've been drafting well. They've been developing well. And, you know, could you kind of describe what you feel like, why this time around is going to be different for the Sabres in the future?
Yeah, and I think it starts there with the management group. So Kevin Adams, when he came in, did a literal cleaning of house in his first few hours as general manager. So if people remember, it was a big story. I mean, they ended up firing 22 people that day from their hockey ops staff. So almost a complete gutting of the staff, you know, during COVID and all of that. But to Adam's credit, he's built it back up. Carmanos is the associate general manager. He comes over highly regarded. I guess you could say he's also running the analytics department. So he brought with him from his Penguins days, he brought in Sam Ventura, who was probably one of the smartest people in the league. So as I think the director of hockey strategies, his official title. And then he's built out his analytics department from there. You know, he brought in Dom, who's one of the smartest, you know, people that I've read. When he was doing public work before he went to Stathletes. And then bringing in Matt Barlow too, who was also extremely intelligent. You know, and Matt has done a lot in hockey. He's done basketball too. That's where he came from. The Sabres hired him. Actually, he was working for an NBA team. But yeah, I mean, those three with Sam, Dom, and Matt, an extremely intelligent and smart front office. I think we've seen a lot of what their impact is on this team, like you mentioned, from their drafting. I think Sam has done a good job incorporating the number side into the draft process along with what the scouts see. And I think Adams, to his credit, what you notice about Adams is he likes to listen to his staff, and that's a good thing. He likes to take their advice. He likes to ask questions on why they're saying what they're saying, why they're telling them why they like this player. And then he takes their information, listens to everybody to make sure everybody feels involved, and makes decisions off of that. So I think Adams has done a great job. Not everything has been perfect, of course. There's been some hiccups here and there. But yeah, I mean, the drafting has gone well. I think what he's done for this team and putting it together, I think he has a vision, and whether you like it or not, he has stuck to his vision that this is going to be a team of young players that are going to build up. They're going to grow up together. He's going to reinvest in this core like he's done with Matthias Samuelsson, like he's done with Tage Thompson. We're going to see probably next summer with Rasmus Dahlin, and then, you know, whoever else they decide to take part of their core and sign here. So they have a vision for once that you can see. Doesn't mean it's going to work, but I think this is the first time where there's actually a plan in place that you can see a group is going to follow through on it. So far, they've gotten good results off of it. And, oh, by the way, they have, you know, probably the top prospect pool in the league right now. So a lot of good things. The team is playing better. They're competitive. And you have a ton of young players in the NHL and a ton of young players coming right behind them too. So the cupboard is stocked right now. If they can get it all right, if they can get those final few pieces together, the Sabres could really start to make some noise here in the next couple of years.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping for. They got a good thing going there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just going to quickly recap out-of-town scores for people that wanted to know. Canucks are up 4-2 over the Caps after the second. Panthers are losing 2-1 against the Bruins with 2.5 to go in the second. Rangers are up 5-2 on the Ducks after 2. Pittsburgh's up 2-0 on the Canadiens after the second. The Leafs are trailing 2-0 to the Coyotes after 2.
Ooh, good Arizona.
Yeah. LA Kings are up 3-2 with 1:50 to go in the second. Avalanche 2-1 over the Wild with 36 seconds to go in the first. And Winnipeg is up 1-0 on Dallas with most of the first left to go. And the Carolina Hurricanes and Seattle Kraken start tonight at 8 I got a question about, do you think Tage Thompson can handle the assignment of either McDavid or Draisaitl tomorrow? And if you're coaching, who do you put him out there against mainly? Although McDavid and Draisaitl actually have been playing together quite a bit this season already. So.
Yeah, it won't be Tage Thompson's line to go against him. I can assure you of that. It'll probably be Dylan Cousins. Yeah, based on the line today, I said probably Dylan Cousins. The Sabres did reformat what we in Buffalo call, and Jeff probably knows if you've heard of this, the log line. So that used to be Johan Larsson, Kyle Oposo, Zegmas Girgensons was their strong defensive line for about two and a half years. Johan Larsson, as we know, is gone, but Oposo and Girgensons are still here. But Rasmus Asplund has stepped into that role and is probably one of the best, and with no exaggeration, one of the better defensive forwards in this league. He even got Selke votes last year, so he's a great defensive forward. But that line was doing pretty well the first two games. But it appears, and wisely so, that they're going to bump Asplund up the lineup here and put him back on the wing to kind of get some of their lines at the top of the lineup going a little bit more defensive acumen up there. So if they didn't do that, I would say he would see the Asplund line, but I'm pretty confident he's going to get McDavid's going to get a look at Dylan Cousins again, because when they were in Buffalo last time they played, he got a lot of Dylan Cousins, and Cousins did well in that game.
Yes. I'm a huge fan of Cousins. It's only been 2 games this year, but I feel like he's taken the steps and the strides that he needs to be in his development.
Absolutely.
So Cousins is great to have, and I like that assignment and that matchup. It'd be something to look forward to tomorrow. So.
Yeah, Granato always gives him the hard matchup, so I fully expect that to be the case.
So, Chad, speaking of tomorrow night's game a little bit, the Oilers have already announced Stuart Skinner will be starting in goal. I love getting an outsider's perspective from Buffalo. What do you know of Stuart Skinner, and kind of what do you see of Stuart Skinner, and kind of what have you heard from your Buffalo side of things on goaltender Stuart Skinner so far?
Honestly, I don't know a lot about him. I've watched him play a few times, and I think it's been a mixed bag. There's some good games and some bad games, and that's what we expect from a young goaltender. But yeah, I don't. Goaltending in itself is a hard thing to predict. So you really never know what you're going to get on a night-to-night basis. So it's kind of hard to know. I guess he's the de facto backup now with Campbell there, right? So he's the number 2. So the Sabres are getting the backup. So you would think they'd like to take advantage of that. The Sabres, I guess you could say, don't really have a backup. They have 2 number 1s they're going to rotate. I would imagine Anderson's going to play tomorrow. Granato does not announce that anymore, but I would imagine Anderson will play, and then Connery will probably play the next game. So that'll be the split that they do there. So Anderson looked good in his opener against Ottawa, so we'll see if Skinner can be up to the task against an improving, while maybe a slow start, but an improving Buffalo offense.
Speaking of the Sabres goalies, since you brought it up there, between Comrie and Anderson, between the two, do you think they're going to 50-50 it, or how many games do you think it'll be by the season end kind of thing, like more towards Comrie or Anderson, or how do you think it goes?
I think the plan, if everything goes right, is for Comrie to start to take more of the starts. I think initially with the first month or so of the season, you'll see almost an even split. Mm-hmm. And, they'll ride maybe the harder goaltender will get more. Maybe we'll get 3 out of 4. That's going to be how they'll kind of roll out whoever's hotter. But I think the hope is for the Sabres that Comrie kind of start to take the reins there. He gave up 4 goals against Florida, but he was actually really good in that game. For a numbers guy like me, he saved, was like a half a goal above expected. So he gave up 4, and in all situations, expected goals said Florida should have had 5. So, he did a good job. The goals of the save percentage didn't look great, but that's why we look at adjusted save percentage for stuff like that. Mm-hmm. A good start for both goaltenders. I think Luukkonen will also, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen will play a factor in some way. I keep telling people I think he's going to get around 20 games in the NHL this year. So I think they'll find spots as the season goes on, whether it be injuries or just kind of rotating him in. So I think at the end of the season, you're going to see 3 goaltenders kind of being an impact for the team this year.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100% there because Luukkonen, it's the last year that he's waiver exempt, so they can send him up and down as much, almost as much as they want. And it's something where he's got to be ready next year. So they can't wait until next year to see what they have. They got to sprinkle in some games this year to kind of see where Luukkonen's status is, kind of thing, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So, Mike, you know what? I'd already did this to Chad here. Mike, what's your take on Luukkonen? And what have you heard from an Oiler Edmonton perspective? And what do you think on the youngster Luukkonen? And if there's what kind of future do you think he has?
Oh man, putting me on the spot.
Did I? Sorry. I just, I got Chad's perspective on Skinner. I kind of want to see your perspective on Luukkonen there.
I don't really have much of one at all.
Oh, really? Okay. I'm kind of high on the kid, but I feel like not as much as I used to be. He was a 2019 OHL goalie of the year. And in Rochester in the AHL hasn't really lived up to, I feel like, some people's expectations.
But his NHL numbers are really strong, though, which is the weird part.
Yeah, and I feel like we can almost – Rochester's defense have been a little weaker. The AHL team, they haven't really been taking care of the defense down there. So it's a bit of a weaker blue line in front of Luukkonen there. So he has played well in his NHL games. You are right about that. So.
Well, this year in the AHL, that defense excuse is gone. They went out and they did a good job. They have borderline NHL players on there. Chase Prisky, Lawrence Pilot.
Cale Clague.
Yeah, Kyle Clague is on there still. So, they went out and they signed some guys. Ethan Prow is still there. Oskari Laaksonen, he's a third-round pick from a couple of years ago. He's on the back end. They went and invested in that defense, and they got a pretty good group down there. So there's no excuse this year for the defense. And the first two games, defensively they looked fine. Luukkonen was pretty good in his start that he had last week. You want to kind of keep that going. And the main thing for him is healthy, right? That's what they want to see. They want to see him play 40 games at whatever level it is, AHL, NHL, and prove that he can do it and stay healthy, because that has also been the big thing in his career, is just not being able to stay healthy.
Yeah.
It looks like the Sabres did a little bit of trimming today. Like you sent a player down to Rochester and put another guy on waivers today. In oil country, that the sky is falling when that kind of stuff happens. What does it mean to Sabres fans?
Matej Picard is one who they sent down. He was actually injured. He's an AHL player, so he was hurt. So they just sent him down now that he's cleared to play. And the player they sent down on waivers, Anders Bjork, is not really a surprise. That was maybe expected to happen before the season started. But the reason he started the season up here is because former Oiler, if I'm correct, Riley Sheahan, was actually injured to start the season, but he is cleared to return now. He's a full participant in practice today. So they sent Bjork down through waivers so they could activate Sheahan off of IR.
Yeah, no, Riley Sheahan, sorry. He's a former Oiler there, like you said, and I feel like he's a picture-perfect, 14th forward guy who can sit in the press box and,
play every single position out there forward. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he can play wing, he can play center, and, he's going to be probably a frequent visitor of the press box, but that's the kind of player you want up there, you know what I mean? Like, we know what he is. He's not going to kind of decline or, his development's not going to be in question. So,
or be frustrated by it. He knows what his role is in this league now. He understands.
Good for Sheahan to still be in the NHL roster. How about
that? So what do you guys both think of Owen Power and Rasmus Dahlin being a pairing, and do you think that sticks for the majority of the season, or they split?
They haven't played together.
Oh, okay.
Last year, they were together last year, right?
No, not really. I mean, maybe in little circumstances, maybe in the trailing. The pair's Power has been with Yoki Haru almost exclusively since he came into the NHL. That goes back to last year. That's this year so far. And Matthias Samuelsson, who has a brand new 7-year contract, and Dahlin is your top pair defense for the Sabres. And those two to start the season have been very good. Dahlin looks like the player they expect when they drafted him first overall in 2018. And Matthias Samuelsson is a big boy with an incredible reach. He is very good defensively in his own end. So that pair really works. It's really the Power and the Yoki Haru pair that's a little bit concerning, and it's more on the Yoki Haru side. He has not lived up to what he was a couple of years ago. So there's some concern there. But yeah, Power, I think Power's off to a little bit of a slow start. He's not playing as well as he did last year in his 8-game sample. But I mean, the kid's incredible. The things he does out there, 6'6", the kid looks like a giant out there. And then you're like, you don't expect the way he moves the puck, how much he gets up the ice. You're going to see that as Oilers fans. The Sabres' top two pairs in Dahlin and Power are going to be all over the ice the entire game. So, look for that from a Sabres perspective, because those two like to get up and get involved in the play.
I have to fire my intel department here.
Just to add on that a little bit, I like that they keep them separate. I feel like, use the depth that you have there and kind of build on your top two pairings, right? So keep Dahlin and Power separate. And Samuelson, he's great on the top pair. I feel like he balances Dahlin out kind of thing. Yep. And maybe they'll eventually go to it, but they should try Ilya Lyubushkin with Power for a little, and maybe Lyubushkin and Power together could, who knows, right? But like you were saying about Henry, I kind of agree with you on the Yoki Haru aspect. And I just, you got to be tricky in who they're going to pair Power with, right? So,
yeah, I think eventually we'll see Lyubushkin get a chance. Him and Bryson are the third pair. They were really good against Ottawa. They were kind of rough against Florida. So I think it was more Bryson was rough than Lyubushkin, but we'll see. And don't forget, they have, Lawrence Pilot, who I'm convinced is not an AHL player, kicking around down in the minors, kind of getting season 2. So I think, in the defense group, he's going to be a player for them too at some point this year. So that can also move your pairings around a little bit when things get settled here. We really get into the meat of the season.
Do you have predictions for the road trip? How you fare?
So Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, Seattle. It's not easy. I think you're happy if you come away 500. Maybe you get a game to overtime and you kind of pull a 2-1-1 out of there. So you walk away with more points, than I guess a little bit above 500 in that regard. So I think best case scenario, you win them all. Hopeful scenarios, you go 2-1-1. Ideally, you walk out of there with a split and come back home and get going again.
Yeah, 500 on any road trip is kind of a win, but
that's what you take, right? That's what you kind of hope for when you're gonna head out there.
Yeah, I mean, coming through Alberta now is a little bit tougher than it used to be. I think Edmonton and Calgary are both good teams. I mean, I saw Calgary firsthand on Saturday, and they're a relentless team, and they start games on time, unlike Edmonton. So it wouldn't surprise me if you guys are up 2-0 early in the first tomorrow. So yeah, that's something.
Sabres like to play an open game, so it should feed into Edmonton. But I mean, those are the fun ones, right? Those open, high-flying games. Sabres will get out and skate with you if you want to do it.
We'll take those, yep.
Touching on the Battle of Alberta a little bit there, Chad, once again, your opinion. Who do you think comes out of the Pacific Division this year? I just want to see your better perspective again. And there's a lot of talk over here in Alberta, of course, between who finishes at the top. What do you think on the Pacific?
Yeah, that division, it's tough. They used to be a pretty weak division a couple of years ago, right? And now it's maybe one of the better ones in the league. I don't know. It's so hard. I'll give Calgary credit for rebuilding what they've done after they lost to Chuck and lost Gaudreau. I think long term they're going to pay for it. But I think if they can get something done here in the next 2 to 3 years, before these guys kind of hit that age wall, obviously it's worth it. You take that. Vegas, as much as I hate to say it, because here in Buffalo we like to kind of laugh at Vegas. Vegas looks pretty good under the new head coach. So I don't know. Maybe right now I would say I think I put Vegas at the top with Calgary and Edmonton nipping at their heels. And then you don't know. I mean, what is LA going to be this year? Can Anaheim make a jump? I think Seattle might be able to make some noise this year. Vancouver and San Jose, I'm not really, believers in. I think Vancouver of the two kind of has the more, I don't know, I guess the better between Vancouver and San Jose. But I don't really believe in either of those teams. I think Anaheim is slightly near the bottom. So yeah, I think if I had to pick it, I would say Vegas, Calgary, and Edmonton in that 2 or 3 spot, and then I think Seattle and Los Angeles will kind of kick around for that 4 spot. Maybe battle for a wild card, but I like the Kings this year too. I think they have a good roster. They have some of their young guys playing well, so I wouldn't look past the Kings either.
That Vegas call is interesting because I just don't think they have the goaltending to compete.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Can it last that long? Yeah, I mean but it's Vegas though. If like some big goaltender becomes available, it's Vegas. They'll go figure out a way because they always jump around the salary cap to make it work. They'll put 15 guys in IR to go get a big contract.
Yep.
So true.
This is a question kind of from an Edmonton perspective to a Buffalo fan, but if you were the Edmonton Oilers, like the talk is we need Jacob Chychrun. Would you make a move for that or just let it be?
Depends where you're willing to give up.
Yeah.
It seems like Arizona's not coming down on their price, which I think is kind of crazy. What they're asking, multiple first-round picks and a prospect or in a roster player, that seems like a lot for a guy who I think is a top 4 defenseman, but I don't think he's a top pair guy. So, yeah, I mean, I like Chychrun as a player. I think he can play. It's going to be expensive. And, I'm not incredibly in depth of the Oilers roster 2 games into the season, but I just –
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if that's the move you want to make yet.
He's also banged up right now. So.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I was just to say that. He's hurt right now. Maybe let him get some games in. Yeah, if I was Edmonton right now, I'd hold. I mean, I'm not going to make the move tomorrow, obviously, but
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, let your young players in your blue line see if they can be something before you start giving up big assets to go after them.
I'm sort of in the camp where it's early in the season. A move like that, I would wait till later on because throughout the season he could get hurt again too. So,
right.
Yeah, for me, it's not urgent. Got another one, Jeffy?
Yeah, no, I got a few there. I can talk for hours, guys. But I want a little connection here between the Sabres and Oilers. I hate to bring up the name, but Mr. Ralph Krueger. He was an assistant in Edmonton for years. He coached Edmonton for half a season. And honestly, when Buffalo hired him, I was like, yes, this guy did okay at Edmonton. And let's see what he does. But I will be the first one to admit I quickly turned on him. And just Chad, you followed him. Well, I don't know how closely but you're around a lot for the Krueger era. It's just, at what point do you think was the turning point where you're like, what is this guy doing? What is happening? And it's just so weird because from an Oilers perspective, so many fans in Oilers country seem like they're like, oh, Krueger, they had so much respect for him. And they were like, oh, I was so happy for him to get a head coaching job. And he just totally bombed that opportunity. You know what I mean? And so is there a significant point in Krueger's era where you feel like that one mistake, sorry, just go ahead. What do you think of the Krueger era and what kind of big pivotal points during that time?
Yeah, the downfall started when he started to get caught in lies. That's legitimately when it started to fall apart for him. I think it really started to fall apart for him with the whole Jeff Skinner thing.
That healthy scratch,
taxi squad practice. Look, that's how you lose a room, and he did, and he lost the room from that. A respected veteran like that, you want to send a message and scratch him for a game, fine. It happens all the time. To make a thing out of it, where I think it went a week, even to the point, like I said. He had him practice with the taxi squad, in a sense, to humiliate Skinner. And then when asked about it, where was Skinner? He said, oh, he just skated earlier in the day by himself. And it came out to later find out that he skated with the taxi squad. So that's when the downfall started. And then the beginning of the next year when things didn't start going well, it was the lying about injuries. Eichel's injury in particular, not his neck, but his ankle. He got an ankle injury. He took warm-ups for a game and then did not end up playing that game. When asked about it, Krueger said that he hurt his ankle in warm-up. The next game when Eichel played, we found out he actually didn't hurt his ankle in rump. He hurt his ankle a few games before that, and it's been bothering him for a few games now. And then really it just started to snowball every single post-game interview. And then again, I mean, you get into the 18-game losing streak. He was around for 15 of those. It started to snowball. I mean, his last interview, I don't know if it's out there somewhere, but if you want to go watch it, like you literally don't even know what the guy is even talking about. He was talking about that he met some kid on the street, and the kid told him that he loved Ralph and the team, and he really hopes that they pull things together. And like the question was, he was asked like a hockey question, even if it was long ramble about this kid that he met on the street and how much he loved the Sabres, and it was like, you could just tell the guy lost it, and he just I don't know what happened, and him and Steve Smith were out the door. I think 24 hours later, we're gone. So not the very next morning, not even 24 hours later.
So I got a follow-up question to that. Then you both are okay with Craig McTavish giving him his walking papers via Skype?
I mean, I think that's a little. I mean, whether a guy is losing it or not, I think you don't do it over Skype.
That's almost as bad as letting Gallant go and giving him making him take a taxi.
Making him get his own taxi home, right? Yeah.
So Chad, you're a Yankees fan. How are you feeling? How's the game going? Are they on yet?
No, I don't know if they started. I don't think they started yet. I think it's in a rain delay still, which is
that's right.
Great because that means they're going to start at like 10 o'clock, and I'm not going to make the entire game. But yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say Durza is a giant Red Sox fan, just to warn you. So be careful.
Oh man, that's a shame. It's unfortunate. Sorry about that.
My dad played on an all Cape Cod All-Star team when he was in high school, and he actually played in Fenway and played against.
Well, then you have some sort of connection. So
played against an all Boston.
Fair enough.
He played against an all Boston team, and he made a catch at the Green Monster and all that. So that's probably why.
Well, then you have a connection, so I'll give you a break.
That's probably why I'm a Red Sox fan.
That's fair enough. But yeah, we'll see how tonight goes. I don't know. I felt confident all day long. Back in the Bronx, they have to get one if they do play tonight, which hopefully they do, because I don't want it to get delayed to get another day, and then the Guardians can roll out Bieber tomorrow. So I'm hoping they do play tonight. They got to jump on the Guardians pitcher early, and don't let it get into trying to beat the Guardians bullpen, because their bullpen is better than Yankees right now. So jump on them early and hope that the Bronx Magic can carry them, and then on to Houston, and you just cross your fingers and hope there.
Yeah, they're a good team. There's probably only 3 Yankees I've ever really liked, and it's Derek Jeter, Jorge Posada, and Judge.
All right, well, that works. Those are 3 good names.
Yeah. For people not familiar with Sabres prospects, can you enlighten us to your prospect pool, who to watch, who will make an immediate impact, and who will surprise, and who will fall?
Yeah, so you're actually going to get a glimpse of 2 of them tomorrow. Jack Quinn, who was a first-round pick in 2020. He's in the lineup now. JJ Paterka, who was the second-round pick that year, is in the lineup too, and he's actually been the better of the 2. Paterka can make an argument he's been their best player so far this season. Both of them had excellent AHL seasons last year. Jack Quinn was actually the rookie of the year in the AHL. So those are 2 guys I'm going to see right away. Peyton Krebs, out of the Eichel trade. We don't know if he's going to be in the lineup tomorrow. He was skating with the extras in practice today, but Don Granato said to not read anything into the lines. So we'll see what goes on there. But Crab's actually been really good too. He's been one of their better forwards. So I'd be kind of surprised if he's scratched, but we'll see how that plays out. And then in the AHL, they have a few guys actually over in North America right now. Isaac Rosine. He was the first-round pick in 2021. He was the first-round pick from Philadelphia in the Ristolainen trade. So he's over from Sweden. He scored a goal last week in the opener. So he'll be a fun prospect to watch. Yuri Coolidge, who was a first-round pick this year, 3rd of their 3 first-round picks. He is also in the AHL. He looks excellent, going back to the World Juniors that were in the summer. Going back to development camp, going to the Prospect Challenge, and then carried it on in training camp. He's looked really good, so he's an exciting player that could make an impact this year. Lucas Rusak, who is a 5th-round pick, is in the AHL. Maybe it's a 6th-round pick from a couple years ago. He's looked really strong. And I think that's really kind of it from impact players. There's a couple other guys like Philip Cedarquist, who's a 5th-round pick. Alexander Kisakov, who was a 2nd-round pick from a year and a half ago. He's in the AHL this season too. So the AHL's team has stacked a lot of young guys, which is kind of cool and why we're following them this year on our site. And then beyond that, they have Matthew Savoy, who plays out Western Canada there for Winnipeg. So he was a 1st-round pick, 9th overall this year. An extremely intriguing prospect. He'll be fun to watch. Noah Ostlund, another 1st-round pick. He's over in Sweden, off to a good start. So, they have a couple guys in college too. Aaron Hoolin at the University of Minnesota. He's a little bit older. And then you have your 3 unsigned guys in college. You have Devin Levi, who's going to sign with them. The season's over, the goaltender at Northwestern, who's been excellent. And then you have Eric Portillo playing at the University of Michigan. He's one of the guys that might actually go to free agency because he has that option after this season. So we'll see how that plays out. And then the other one is a 1st-round pick from 2019, and Ryan Johnson, who's playing his 4th year at the University of Minnesota, and he also too can go to free agency. So we'll see how that plays out as well. So the Sabres have a couple guys this summer to watch to see if they sign or not. So that will be interesting.
What's our timing like today, Mike? I could go on all night, but
yeah, maybe we'll give them a couple more each, and
yeah. Chad, they're next year. Yeah, Darlene's got 2 years left, so next year they're able to extend Darlene next summer. Do you think they should do it as soon as possible, of course? And what kind of money range do you see Darlene coming in at?
So they can start talking to him legally on July 1st when the new league year starts. This isn't like inside knowledge or anything by any means, but I have a good feeling that he will have a new contract by the 4th of July in Buffalo. So I think that contract is already put in a box, gift wrapped and ready to go. He is very likely going to be the next captain of this team. So he's going to be here for a long time. Then you're looking, from a contract perspective, you're in the 8-year, $8 to $9 million range, I would assume. Probably around the 8-ish range, maybe 8.5 is probably where that's going to end up. And then who was the other one you asked me about?
I didn't really bring it up, but I was going to ask about Cousins as well, because he's an RFA this year. And what kind of contract do you see Cousins coming up with his RFA coming up this summer?
Yeah, Cousins is interesting because he's having a good start to this season. I think the coach and I think Kevin Adams have a lot of faith in Cousins. I've heard whispers that they're trying to begin conversations with him on a long-term deal, as we've seen with Samuelson and Thompson. I think that it would be in the very, 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 very early stages. But I think that's their plan, is to try to see if they can get something done with him long term. Now they believe in Cousins. They have a lot of faith in him. He's rewarded them so far, and I think I picked him as a breakout player this year for the Sabres. I think something, if they do land on something, probably in the $6 to $7 million range, 6.5, 6.75. Maybe we'll see where they push it. It's interesting from a Cousins standpoint. Does he want to just put in a monster season and then deal with it in the off season, or does he want to commit? And I guess we'll see where the money kind of plays out there between the two sides of negotiations. But it'll be interesting to see kind of maybe more of where Cousins' side feels they are than the Sabres side.
What do you guys think is going to actually go down tomorrow night? I mean, we're both coming off, I think, 4-3 losses. Who's going to want the game more?
Yeah, it's tough because the Sabres have played the Oilers relatively well, if I remember correctly, the last few times. I think the last time Edmonton actually didn't go well. Edmonton kind of ran away with that one. Maybe I'm mixing up games. I don't know. I mean, my gut always says go with the home team and you can't make a decision. So I would say that Edmonton's probably favored, but I would expect a close game regardless.
Yeah, I think it'll be close. We've got the young bunch that are very energetic and always good to go, and I got faith in Don Granado there. He seems like he's got a good motivational speaker type mentality, and he can get the young kids going, right? And I'm not sure if they're coming out, but Dylan Cousins is from the Yukon, and Peyton Krebs is from the Calgary area.
Yeah,
so
right.
Maybe they might have family nearby or something, but still, I think the Sabres will come out flying. It'll be close, but I'm not going to be crazy and call a Buffalo win. But I think it'll be close, and the Sabres will at least keep it close.
Yeah, that's fair.
I won't rebut to that. I'll just let you guys have your say there. The YouTube chats are all saying that we're going to blow you out, but
I love that.
I don't get.
Sabres rarely get blown out. They come to play.
Yeah,
it's rare they get blown out.
After watching Saturday night's, shellacking in the first 10 minutes of the first period, I don't really have much confidence in this group right now. I know they're a good team, but it's like last year. They need to figure out, to play 60 minutes is what it takes to win in the NHL, and they might be still licking their wounds from Saturday night's loss to the Flames. So I don't have any predictions. Jeff, if you've got one more, I'll let you go, and then we'll let Chad go watch his Yankees.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Just as a whole grand big picture of things with the Sabres this year, just I've read your articles and I kind of see what you've projected and stuff. But just for the viewers we have here in the Oilers type of fan base, what do you project the Sabres to kind of finish in points wise? Like what kind of point range, and where do you see them kind of measuring up in the Eastern Conference and the Atlantic Division?
Yeah, so my range for them is pretty big. I think in my preview article I did the range I had was 76 to 86 points. And the range is so big because I think they have so many questions we need to find out about. Their goaltending, which we talked about earlier, who's going to take that step. We talked about Cousins maybe, is the one thing we were concerned about, Rasmus Dahlin's thing has been to forget how to play hockey for the first 2 months of the season. That is not a thing this year, it appears, so we can at least write that one off as being an issue. And then kind of, is Thompson going to repeat to what he did last year? Is Skinner going to have that up and down year where this, in his career, it's up, down. We're in a down year. So is it a down year, or is he going to kind of stay where he was last year? And, you get Alex Tuck for a full season, so we'll see how much of an impact that makes. But yeah, there's so many questions around this team that's why my range is so big. I think I eventually landed on, I put them at 84 points, is where I think that they eventually fall. In the Atlantic, obviously they're not as good as the top three teams, maybe even top four teams, Toronto, Tampa, Boston, Florida. That's your class of the division. Call me skeptical on Detroit, call me skeptical on Ottawa. I think Detroit, Ottawa, and Buffalo are in the same bunch. And we'll see kind of where that shakes out. But I'd put them in that 5 to 7 range in that conference or in that division because I think those three teams are kind of on the same level.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I kind of put him on like the 87-point range, but we're not too far off. And
yeah,
I think bottom line, it's still kind of a developmental year. Like you can't expect young prospects in that age range to kind of turn it around so fast, right? So I feel like they still got inexperience against them, and it's just a growing year, right? So maybe next year we could talk a little more on the playoff side, but I don't feel like this year, no.
No, I think next year has to be that year. I think this is your, I don't want to say get close, but be in the conversation when the calendar flips to 2023 is the way I put it. Mm-hmm. Still be alive and not be a lost season. And then I think next year, like you said, has to be, once you get your answers on a lot of questions you have on a lot of players, then you attack it this offseason and you try to be a playoff team next year.
Yeah. Well, Mike, how you doing, buddy? How you feeling?
I'm doing great. Chad kind of got me excited when he said Buffalo likes to open it up a little bit. So as an Oilers fan, that's got me excited. Although now I'm expecting Buffalo's going to come out and play a trap tomorrow night. So
I have not seen a Granado team throw a trap out there, so it might be the first time. So I wouldn't expect that. They like the counterattack, so they'll try to get out and run with you. Maybe not the best strategy with the Oilers, but that's the way they play. So they're going to try to play a rush game.
So I'd like to thank you both for coming on and giving us lots of insight to what you guys have to offer in the Sabres, and look forward to a up and down hockey game. Hopefully that's the way it shakes down. Thanks everybody for watching on YouTube there. We're trying to keep our episodes a little bit shorter than last year. Sometimes we'd go on for 2 hours and stuff like that. And we find the drop-off rate after about 50 minutes is huge. So we're at 45 minutes. And thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks for coming on. Chad and Jeff, keep your sticks on the ice. Keep reaching for the stars. Go Oilers, go. And good night.